Hi everyone, in today's tutorial we're going to learn how to make Ariel from The Little Mermaid. First we're going to take some modelling paste and we're going to colour it grey, and we're just going to roughly shape it into a rock shape with a little bit of a slope at the front, and this is where Ariel is going to sit. We've got our scriber tool and we're just creating a few lines and just roughing up the edges a little bit to make it a bit rougher. Once you're happy with the rough shape, we're going to put this away to one side and we're going to work on Ariel's fin. So I've taken some more modelling paste and coloured it in green, and you just want to make sort of a long cone shape that's pointy at one side and bigger at the other side. Once you're happy with the general size, you can trim off any excess and just fix it onto your rock using the gap that we've made for the fin to sit in. You can see I'm just making some scale marks there with the modelling tool. I wouldn't fill the whole fin, just little dashes everywhere would just be fine. And then just secure that with a little bit of water or edible glue and 2 cocktail sticks through the middle. Next we're going to work on the fin, so I've taken some more modelling paste and coloured it a really light green, and then we're just going to cut out some fin shapes. Now I tend to cut 3 rather than 2, because if you cut 2 the likelihood is that neither one of them are going to be the same, and then you spend ages faffing about trying to make them exact. Whereas if you do 3, you tend to usually get 2 that look very similar. Just tends to save a lot of time. Check the size of these against the bottom of the tail, and once you're happy with 2 that match, we're just going to draw on some little lines, and these are going to make the fins. Just really lightly with the scriber tool, because you don't want to cut into the fondant, you just want to mark it slightly. And then just sticking this on with some water. You may need to prop, depending on how you want the fin at the bottom, you may need to prop the fin up with some dried modelling paste, just so that it holds its shape while it dries. Just keep having a play around with these until you're happy with the positions that they're in. Again, like I said, just using a bit of dried modelling paste just to prop it up if needed. And just make sure that you push them onto the base as securely as you can. Next we're going to work on Ariel's upper body. So I've got some Saraceno modelling paste, and I've coloured this in a skin tone colour using the Sugar Flare skin tone and a little bit of chestnut. And I'm making sort of a sausage shape and using my finger just to create the boob line and the bum line at the back. We're going to trim off any excess for the neck and then just push down to create the shoulders. Now you can see that I am smoothing at the top to create the bust line from the top, but also smoothing up from the waist as well. Checking the size of this against the fin that we've already got at the bottom and the tail, and just continuing to smooth those areas over. You want the shoulders to come in a little bit so that when we stick the arms on, she doesn't have really broad shoulders, and we do want quite a tiny waist. She is quite skinny. I'm just using my finger and my modelling tool to create a little bit of a cleavage line and just smoothing those out with my fingers. Checking again for size and see if we need to chop anything off or if we need to make her a little bit slimmer. Just redefining those shoulder lines while we're at it. The good thing about Saraceno is you can carry on playing for quite a while and it's not going to dry up like other modelling pastes do. Once you're happy with the shape and the size, we're going to use a paintbrush just to create the line in the neck and for the shoulders, and then just our modelling tool to create a belly button, and then just smoothing off those edges. We're going to leave the body to dry over a small rolling pin, and this is just going to give a really natural arch to the back rather than the back just being flat because it's been left to dry on a surface. Next we're going to work on Ariel's face. So I've taken some more modelling paste, rolled it into an oval shape. You can see me using the brushes there to create a T shape within the face, so one across for the eyes and another one for the nose. And then we're going to use our modelling tools and fingers just to create the nose area. This is the part that I work on first. So I create the little dips for the eyes. And we'll go back and work on those in a bit. And we're going to work on the nose first. So you're going to mark where you want the bottom of the nose to be with your modelling tool. And just give it a little bit of a pinch and push it up with your modelling tool. You can see that I'm defining the line between the nose and where the mouth's going to be. And just pushing it up a little bit more. Going through the bridge of the nose with your modelling tool and pushing those back together with your fingers. Next we're going to put some holes in for the nostrils. So you want some tiny holes right towards the bottom of the nose. And then we're going to use our modelling tool just to create a line at the bottom. And you can see this is going to define the nose away from the rest of the face. It's going to bring it out a little bit. And just using your fingers just to smoothen it out a little bit. The dots that I'm doing now are where I want the eyes to go. And then we're going to put dots for the mouth. Using your scalpel, you're going to draw a line across and pull down slightly. I'm going to use the back of a paintbrush again to create lines and then just roll it up for the bottom lip. So you can see I'm going to put my scalpel back in the mouth and bring it down a little bit. We're going to do Ariel smiling this time with an open smile. So we want to make room for the teeth to go in. Just pulling down the lip. Everything that I'm doing here is just playing about with it until I'm happy. Using my modelling tool on my fingers to pull down the lip. Constantly smoothing over the areas. Creating the middle bit for the top of the lip. Is that the Cupid's bow? And just smoothing out with my modelling tool. And they do look a bit strange at this point, but you've just got to have faith that it will come together and that it is going to look okay. Her face does look really big here, but we are going to remove off the excess anyway. This is what you should have so far. We're going to go back to working on the nose a little bit, and you can see here I'm just using my modelling tool to push around the nose. This is going to again give us a little bit more definition. So once you're happy with the face so far, we're going to go ahead and remove some of the excess that we have. Now I've just got one of my tools and I'm just using it to roll it along the side. This is going to help us create the actual face shape, the chin, the jawline, and then we're just going to cut off any excess. I find it easier to do it this way. I feel like you get a better shape. And just continue to smooth over the face to get any creases out or any lines that you don't want. And then we're just going to nip at the back of the head, and this is going to create a space for the neck to go in. And then we're just going to chop that off. And here's what you should have so far. We're going to check that size against the body that we've got. And if it matches up and it's the right size, we're then going to go and just work on the mouth a little bit more. I want to open it up a little bit just so that we can fit some teeth in there. So just using the side of the brush now just to push in the mouth area a little bit further. And then we're going to work on the eyes. So I'm just using the scalpel just to create a line underneath. And then I'm going to use my modelling tool to push the fondant in slightly to create the eye shape that I want. I find that this is a slightly easier way to do it rather than cutting the eye shape out. I think this way is a little bit easier to get two of the same eyes. So you're just using the modelling tool just to create that outline and pushing the fondant down slightly. Once you're happy with the shape of the eyes, we're then going to put the teeth in. So I've got some small white modelling paste and we're just going to try it in for size. It's a little bit big, so I'll take a little bit off. And then we're just going to push that in place using our modelling tool. It needs to be able to be sat further in than the lips. You don't want it all the same level because then it's not going to look natural. and we're just going to create a line across, and that's going to give us the difference between the bottom teeth and the top teeth. Next, we're going to take a small bit of white again, and we're going to put this in for the eye socket. Now, when you're putting it in, you want to start to smooth from the middle out, and this is going to stop the eye from being so flat. It's going to give it a little bit of shape. And then we're going to create the top of the eyelid. So just taking one of your modelling tools and just creating that line across there, and that's going to give us the eyelid that we're looking for. And then if you wanted to, you could create a soft shape for the brows. You don't have to do this, you'll be able to do that with just painting it on's fine. At the bottom of the eye, you want to create another line. You don't have to push too hard, just quite softly, and that's going to give you your lower lid, and it's also going to hide where the white actually joins into the eye socket. And you can just push it up a little bit if it needs to be. Re-going over the top of the eyelid if needed. And redefining the eyebrow. The good thing with Saraceno is you can continue modelling on it for quite a while, so if there are parts that need re-pushing in, just go back and do it. Once you've repeated the same on the other side, we're going to take some blue and we're going to start to paint in Ariel's eyes. It is quite difficult to get two the same without it looking a bit weird. Sometimes you tend to get one eye that's a little bit further across than the other. You can, if you wanted, get small amounts of fondant and place those in if you're not too good at drawing circles, because it can be quite difficult again just to get that same shape on either eye, where it's a lot easier just to do it with fondant. So you can use fondant if you did want to go down that route, but I would recommend really rolling it thin before you stick it on, because you don't want the colour to pop out further than what the eye does itself. Once we've painted the blue, leave it to dry a little bit, and we're going to paint the lips red. Once we've painted the lips on, we're then going to take some of our black sugar flare and we're just going to work on the eye detail a little bit. So we're going to take a really thin brush and just draw a line just at the bottom there on the eyelid. Once you've drawn that line, we're then going to paint on the pupils. Again, if you struggle with this bit, you can always just use a small amount of black modelling paste just to stick that on. I prefer to start with a dot and build it up as I go around. And once you're happy with one side, we're going to go across and do the other. So you can see the face is starting to come together a little bit. It still looks a little bit weird, but once we finish the eyes, it'll start to look a lot more normal. I've taken some dark blue sugar flare and I'm just creating the eye line, and then I'm just going to pull that colour in a little bit just to give it a little bit more of a natural look. And do that again with the other side. And then we're going to work on the eyeliner and the eyelashes. So we're just going to wet the top of the eye, take some black modelling paste and roll it into a long sausage with one side quite thin, gradually getting thicker. And then we're just going to place this on the eye, pushing it into place and then trimming off any excess. I'm going to use the craft knife to take off any excess, and we're going to use the modelling tool just to push it into place. And then once we've trimmed off the excess, we're going to use it to help us flick the rest of the eyelashes up. So just cut it straight at the bottom, and then you can see I'm just going to use the modelling tool just to push it in and making sure it's stuck down in place, and then using it to help flick up the eyelash at that side. We're then going to create some even smaller pieces and stick these on, and these are going to become the eyelashes. I tend to stick to 3, I think it looks better than 4 or 2. And then once you're happy with that, we're going to do exactly the same for the other side, using exactly the same method. If you do get a chance to give this tutorial a go, it'd be really nice if you could share your work with me on my Facebook page. I'd love to see what you all come up with. Once you've placed the eyelashes on the other side and you're happy with their position, we're then going to go and place the whites of the eyes. So just taking again some really small blobs of modelling paste and flattening them slightly, and then just using our brush just to stick those on. So that one was a little bit too big, so I've just chopped it in half, and we're going to use these. Now again, make sure that the light reflection's on the same place on each eye. So next we're going to paint on the eyebrows. Now if you used your modelling tool to create the eyebrow shape within the fondant, then you've got that line to follow. If not, then you kind of just need to follow your own line that you make up. I wouldn't say either one is harder than the other, but obviously if you've already got that shape there, it is easy to follow a line that you've created. If you do make a mistake or one is thicker than the other and you want them to both be the same, I just take another paintbrush that's clean with a little bit of water on, and I just use that to soften up the edges or remove any excess that's there. So when the eyebrows are finished, the last thing that we need to do to the face is just add a little bit of blusher. So I've got some Sugar Flare dust, some luster dust, and I'm just using the pink shimmer. I've just got a tiny little bit on my brush, and I'm going to brush that on both cheeks and a little bit on the chin as well. I'm then going to stick the head onto the body, just using a little bit of water, and here's what you should have so far. Next we're going to work on Ariel's bra. So I've just taken some modelling paste and coloured it purple, and we're just going to make 2 shell cups to cover each side. So you just want to make some rough oval shapes that are kind of pointy in the middle, and use the other end of your stitching tool just to create the lines of a shell. And then we're just going to stick these on with a little bit of water. So as you can see, I'm just going to put a little bit of water over the chest area and then just push these on into place, trying to make sure that they're both level. Next we're going to work on the hand. So I've got my Dresden tool. We've rolled a sausage and flattened one side, and then pushing that Dresden tool up, and that's going to help create the hand shape. We're then going to go across and cut a thumb out, and just push the hand bit together to kind of make it come back up again. It's a little bit more of a natural shape. If you wanted, you could leave it at this stage and just have a very basic hand, or you could then go on to make your fingers. So when you're making your fingers, you just want to cut the lines in at a bit of an angle that will help give you a little bit of a gap between the fingers, and then we're just going to cut them to the right length that we want them. Using your fingers, you're going to soften the edges at the top to round them off a little bit. The fingers can take a little bit of work. They are quite fiddly to do. But once you're happy with the shape of the fingers, you want to roll it in a little bit at the wrist to bring it in a little bit more and make the hand look a little bit more natural. So you can see there, it's looking like quite a natural hand right now. And you just need to keep using your modelling tools just to bring it in a little bit. Flip the hand over for the other side and redefine those lines. And then we're going to create, just with your scriber tool, the lines for the fingers, and that helps them bend a little bit. Cut the arm to size, and then we're going to put the mark in for where the arm will fold. And we're just going to use a little bit of water just to stick this on the body. If the arm or the hand gets a little bit too soft, you can just leave it to one side just to dry for a little bit. Because it's Saraceno, it's got a bit of chocolate in there, but modelling chocolate, so you can leave it to one side. Sometimes when I'm chopping the fingers, they do get a little bit sticky and a bit stretchy, so I just leave it to cool. We're creating the waistband here to where the tail joins onto the body. So just a long line of pale green, and we're just going to flatten it with our fingers and cut it to size. And then we're going to use the scriber tool just to create the little lines at the top of that before we attach it to the body. We're going to attach this with a little bit of water. You only need a little bit. You don't want it too much because then it's just going to move about while it's on there. You can see I'm just brushing a tiny bit on the body there. And we're just going to trim off where that overlap is. And then we're going to fix that arm onto the body now it's cooled down a little bit. So again, just with a little bit of water, I'm pushing that into place, putting some water underneath the fingers just so that it sticks on the fin. Now we're going to move over to the other arm. So again, your sausage shape, and you're going to flatten one end, using your Dresden tool just to push in the palm of the hand, cutting in your thumb. Again, you could leave it at this point if you wanted a basic hand. If you wanted to do the fingers, again, we're just going to cut in those lines. Remember to cut at a slight angle, and then you can trim off any excess that's not needed. You just want to keep pushing with your Dresden tool and trying to round off the fingers and pushing them into place where you want them. Now, I did Ariel holding a comb in this hand, so I've kind of not gone into as much detail as I did on the other side because a lot of that is going to be hidden by the comb. I've taken some purple fondant and I'm just going to cut the basic shape of the comb out and put in some lines at the top. And then we're just going to use some water just to glue this in place in the hand. And we're going to wrap the fingers around it. So because we've created those lines in the fingers, it makes it really easy for them to fold over in quite a natural way. Trim any excess off the top of the arm, and then don't forget to create the indentation for where the crease would be. And we're going to have this brush just resting in a hand on the rock. You may need to put some fondant underneath that to hold it up. And then the last thing we're going to work on is the hair. So you can see that I'm just rolling some sausage shapes and then flattening them and creating a gentle wave. So it's quite a simple shape to do, and I prefer to do a few at one time to leave them to dry a little bit before I actually stick them on the head. Now, a lot of people wear gloves when they're colouring fondant, but I actually don't like the feel of gloves on my hands, so I'd just rather have red hands for a couple of hours. Once you've got a few put aside, just wet the head. Now you want to start at the bottom and work your way up using a little bit of water on the back just to keep it in place. I've decided to add another cocktail stick just in the body to give the head a little bit more support. And there I'm just pushing the first strand on and making sure that I glue it to the body. By gluing the hair to the body as well, you're just creating a little bit more strength within the structure itself. So you just want to carry on adding the hair to the back of the head, moving it up as you're going along so that you're covering up more space. Now, because the body's moving quite a little bit and I'm touching it quite a lot, the Saraceno is getting quite warm. So I've just taken a cocktail stick and I'm just going to put that down the back just to give it a little bit more support. Once you've added all that hair, you're going to need to make a little bit more. I tend to do it in stages rather than all in one go so that I don't make too much and I just make the right amount that I need. Once you've made some more of the squiggly lines, we're then going to start attaching that around the side of the face. So with the hair around the sides, you gradually want to start bringing it forward. So just stick a little bit on and try and frame it around the face. I tend to go with one side and then the other side to build on it properly. And just keep adding it until you feel that it's come far enough forward, bringing it over the shoulders if needed. And then we're going to start working on the top. So when you're doing the top, you still want to sort of bring it to cover the hair at the back. And then we're going to make a fringe to come across the front of the face. So with the fringe, I've just rolled a piece of red fondant in a teardrop shape. And then we're just going to put some lines on it for hair. And then we're going to angle that over her face. So you can see I'm just pushing it in slightly and creating the kink that she tends to have at the front. So just keep playing around with the hair until you're happy, and when you're finished you should have something that looks like this. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and comment down below. To see more of my tutorials, please click the links on the screen now, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future videos. Thanks for watching.